Syria is currently facing a relentless barrage of airstrikes as the United States and Israel have launched coordinated attacks targeting key sites across the country. These airstrikes have significantly intensified in recent days, with both nations focusing on strategic military targets in an effort to undermine threats to regional stability. While the United States has framed its strikes as part of an ongoing campaign to dismantle ISIS strongholds, Israel's objectives are more focused on eliminating weapons threats that could endanger its security, particularly those linked to Iranian-backed groups. The United States has reaffirmed its commitment to eradicating the remnants of ISIS in Syria, despite the group's territorial losses in recent years. U.S. officials have emphasized that their military operations are targeted at ISIS's remaining strongholds, which are scattered across eastern and southern Syria. The U.S. Department of Defense claims that the airstrikes are intended to disrupt ISIS operations, degrade its infrastructure, and prevent the group from regaining a foothold in the region. The targeted strikes have been focused on a range of ISIS facilities, including training camps, weapons storage depots, and communications hubs. These are believed to be vital for the group's ability to organize and coordinate attacks. U.S. military officials also assert that their operations are part of a broader counterterrorism strategy aimed at preventing any resurgence of the Islamic State and ensuring that the group does not establish safe havens in Syria or Iraq, which could once again threaten international security. In recent months, despite significant territorial losses, ISIS has continued to carry out insurgent-style attacks across Syria and Iraq, with sleeper cells still active in parts of the Syrian desert and the eastern region of Deir-ez-Zor. These areas are known to have been ISIS strongholds during the height of the group's territorial expansion, and while much of the group's power has been broken, the U.S. and its allies continue to monitor their movements closely. The latest wave of U.S. airstrikes is, therefore, seen as an effort to eliminate any remaining ISIS presence that could pose a threat to the stability of both Syria and the broader region. In contrast, Israel's involvement in Syria has been primarily driven by its long-standing security concerns, particularly regarding the growing influence of Iranian-backed forces in the country. Israeli officials have repeatedly expressed concern over the transfer of advanced weaponry to Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group based in Lebanon. Israel believes that Hezbollah could use these weapons against Israeli targets, especially as tensions between the two countries remain high. To prevent this, Israel has ramped up its airstrikes targeting arms depots, weapon transfer routes, and military infrastructure belonging to Iranian forces and their allies in Syria. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, have confirmed that their operations are focused on neutralizing long-range missiles, anti-aircraft systems, and other advanced weaponry that could be used by hostile groups operating along Israel's borders. One of Israel's primary objectives in Syria has been to prevent Iran from establishing a permanent military presence in the country. While Iran has been a staunch ally of the Assad regime, providing both military and financial support throughout the Syrian civil war, Israel has voiced concerns that Iran's influence could destabilize the region and pose a direct threat to Israeli security. Israel's military actions in Syria are, therefore, framed as necessary steps to prevent the development of a hostile, Iran-aligned military front along Israel's northern border. While Israel has not publicly stated the specifics of its targets, reports suggest that it has carried out dozens of airstrikes in recent months aimed at preventing the transfer of weapons to Hezbollah and other Iranian-backed groups. The Israeli government has consistently warned that it will take whatever measures are necessary to protect its national security, even if that means engaging in military operations across the border in Syria. These coordinated airstrikes by the U.S. and Israel have significantly escalated tensions in an already volatile region. While the U.S. and Israel maintain that their actions are justified by the need to eliminate terrorist threats and prevent the proliferation of advanced weaponry, Syria and its allies have condemned these strikes as violations of Syrian sovereignty and international law. The Syrian government has accused both the U.S. and Israel of destabilizing the region further and perpetuating conflict under the guise of counterterrorism operations. For Syria, these airstrikes represent another chapter in the ongoing struggle to maintain sovereignty in a country that has been embroiled in civil war for over a decade. The country is now dealing not only with internal unrest but also external military interventions, with the US, Israel, Iran, and Russia all playing significant roles in the conflict. The consequences of these airstrikes remain to be seen, but they underscore the complex and dangerous geopolitical dynamics at play in Syria. While the US and Israel are united in their determination to combat ISIS and curb the influence of Iranian-backed groups, the broader impact of these military actions could have long-term consequences for the region. Both countries face the challenge of balancing their military objectives with the risk of further escalation and instability. As tensions continue to rise, the world watches closely, aware that the situation in Syria remains a critical point of contention in global politics. The coordinated airstrikes have also prompted discussions about the future of Syrian sovereignty and the role of international actors in shaping the country's destiny. As the US and Israel press forward with their campaigns, it remains unclear how Syria, and its allies such as Russia and Iran, will respond. One thing is certain, Syria continues to be a battleground for competing global powers, each with its own interests and objectives. In conclusion, the United States and Israel's coordinated airstrikes in Syria are part of broader, complex efforts to address security concerns and maintain their influence in the region. While the US aims to dismantle ISIS remnants, Israel is focused on limiting the growth of Iranian-backed forces and weapons systems that threaten its security. These actions have already contributed to a sharp increase in tensions, both within Syria and in the wider Middle East, with the potential for further escalation. As the situation develops, the international community remains on edge, anxiously awaiting the next steps in this high-stakes conflict.